Quinn's tale is one of unexpected turns and revelations. Once a vibrant 26-year-old housewife, Quinn had earlier led a dynamic life as an employee at a mobile company. It was there she met Jackson, her boss, and despite their age difference, Jackson being 4 years her senior, they fell swiftly in love. Jackson, a reliable man and an adept mentor, guided Quinn in her early career days with clarity and warmth. Their friendship blossomed into romance, and dining out became a regular joy before they eventually decided to marry. Excitement filled the air as they exchanged vows. Jackson, handsome and admired by many, was a catch in the eyes of their colleagues, and Quinn, having never dated before due to her fascination with animated characters, felt like she was living a dream. Her love for Jackson was deep. He was her first, and she believed he would be her last. Their wedding was a joyful occasion, surrounded by friends and coworkers who shared in their happiness. However, the narrative took a sharp turn the day after their marriage was registered. Jackson dropped a bombshell, declaring that Quinn would quit her job. This was a sudden shock to Quinn, who had not expected such a unilateral decision. She had always valued her independence and her career, encouraged by her father to pursue her professional aspirations. Despite her confusion and the abruptness of Jackson's announcement, she felt compelled to acquiesce, silenced by his stern look. Life as a housewife began, with Quinn dedicating herself to managing their home and pleasing Jackson, despite his lack of acknowledgement of her efforts. The dynamics of their relationship shifted, with the balance heavily tilted towards Jackson's preferences and decisions. One day, as Quinn grappled with the realization of her lost independence and dreams, she discovered something unsettling: Jackson's utter disdain for the idea of fatherhood, evidenced by his reaction to a friend's pregnancy. The revelation was the final straw. Quinn, seeing no future in sacrificing her happiness and autonomy, decided to confront the situation head-on. With a mixture of courage and desperation, she presented Jackson with divorce papers. His reaction was one of shock and anger, but Quinn stood firm. She declared her intentions to reclaim her life and dignity, promising herself never to be diminished again. This marked a new beginning for Quinn, a reclamation of her identity and aspirations. Her journey from a loved-up newlywed to a determined woman ready to face the world on her own terms was both challenging and empowering. Through this tumultuous phase, Quinn learned the invaluable lesson of self-respect and the importance of setting boundaries in relationships. Life with Jackson started to feel more like a transactional arrangement than a marriage. After leaving my job, I had no personal income and became fully dependent on Jackson, which made our relationship feel more like that of an employer and housemaid than husband and wife. Although our marriage seemed stable on the surface, the true dynamics were far from ideal. My days were filled with household chores, each one performed in hopes of a mere nod of acknowledgement from Jackson, which seldom came. One day, the lack of appreciation became painfully evident when Jackson, unconcerned with anything but his own needs, snapped at me over something trivial. Despite feeling unwell and weak, he demanded I get up from bed to prepare his meal, completely dismissing my plea for rest. I had always seen Jackson as a somewhat traditional man, but I had never expected him to be so utterly unsympathetic. His harsh words and cold demeanor as he kicked the blanket off me were a shock. Driven by disbelief and a sense of obligation, I forced myself out of bed, tears mingling with frustration as I went through the motions of cooking. As days passed, my health didn't improve, and another surprise came. I missed my period. A rush of mixed emotions led me to buy a pregnancy test, which confirmed I was pregnant. The news brought me a profound joy that I eagerly wanted to share with Jackson, hoping it might bring us closer. However, the moment to share the news came under less than ideal circumstances. Jackson returned home late, clearly intoxicated. The smell of alcohol was strong, and his stagger made me uneasy. Despite this, I mustered up my courage and shared the news of our impending parenthood. Yet, instead of joy or surprise, Jackson's reaction was harsh and dismissive. "A child? What have you done?" he blurted out, his voice filled with disdain. He made it clear he had no interest in fatherhood, telling me if I chose to have the child, I would be raising it alone. His cruel words and the abrupt dismissal of our future child left me stunned. As he stumbled to the bathroom, I stood in the middle of our home, realizing the gravity of my situation. This was not the partnership I had envisioned. It was a moment of profound clarity. I needed to rethink my life and the future of my unborn child in a space where we could both be cherished and respected. Struggling to grasp Jackson's harsh reaction to our pregnancy, I found myself reeling. My initial burst of joy had evaporated, leaving a hollow pit of despair. His unexpected outburst made little sense. We hadn't been careful about contraception, implicitly agreeing to the possibility of children. As I mechanically continued with my chores, hanging up Jackson's jacket and picking up his clothes for laundry, my hand paused on a curious discovery: a receipt from his shirt pocket. The receipt wasn't from any ordinary place, it was from a motel. My heart sank as the paper trembled in my grasp. The reality of the discovery a stark contrast to what marriage vows meant to me. We had only been married a year, and already my world was tilting on its axis. Doubts crept in relentlessly. Had Jackson ever truly loved me, or was I merely a convenience, a fixture in his well-organized life? These thoughts nagged at me, exacerbated by his inexplicable rage at the news of our child. Maybe his affair wasn't just a fleeting mistake, but a deliberate escape from our marriage. His demand that I quit my job suddenly seemed not just controlling, but strategic. Was his mistress perhaps a colleague? The pieces began to fit together in a mosaic of betrayal and deception. Each day, as I battled morning sickness, Jackson would fill our home with the pungent odors of foods that made my stomach churn even more. He criticized my efforts at housekeeping, insisting I redo tasks despite my physical discomfort. His behavior was cold, as if he resented my pregnancy. Determined to unearth the full extent of his infidelity, I began to observe him more closely. Jackson guarded his phone with a vigilance that left no opportunity for me to look through it. His personal spaces, his room, and his office desk were all meticulously kept, nothing out of place. Nothing to give away any secrets he might be hiding. Despite the emotional turmoil, I committed to gathering concrete evidence. I knew I needed to act, not just for myself, but for the well-being of the child I was carrying. The days ahead would be tough, but I resolved to face them head-on. No longer the Navy bride, but a woman determined to uncover the truth and reclaim her life from the shadows of deceit. Navigating through my troubled marriage with Jackson proved more challenging than I had anticipated. To gather evidence of his infidelity, I meticulously checked his pockets for any receipts or clues, but every search seemed fruitless. I considered hiring a detective, but the financial strain made that option unfeasible. Amid my contemplations, I received an unexpected call from my father. "Hello, it's me, your dad. How are you?" he asked. Given his hectic role as the CEO of a company in France and his workaholic nature, his calls were rare. My childhood memories with him were sparse, overshadowed by his dedication to work, yet I had always respected his commitment. "Dad, what's going on? Aren't you swamped with work?" I inquired, surprised by his timing. "My employees have been performing well, so it's not too hectic right now," he explained, his voice lighter than usual. His call intrigued me, stirring curiosity about his reasons for reaching out. "So what's happening?" I pressed, eager for his news. My father then shared something shocking, a revelation that pierced through the fog of my uncertainties. "Is that really true?" I gasped, struggling to grasp the weight of his words. "Yes, and he's not the type to lie. I need you to believe me," my father reassured, his tone serious and urgent. Feeling a mix of anger and betrayal, I managed to thank him for his honesty. "Thank you, Dad." "I'll do my best," I said, gratitude mingling with my resolve. As I hung up, the new information fueled my determination, but it also intensified my feelings of frustration and betrayal. Despite being pregnant, Jackson's distance and coldness persisted. Each dismissive gesture deepened my resentment towards him. Our relationship strained under the weight of his indifference and my growing apprehension. I was several months pregnant and had become exceedingly cautious around him, living in a state of constant anxiety and trying to avoid confrontations. One evening, after preparing dinner as usual, Jackson arrived home and we sat down to eat. The tension was palpable. Midway through the meal, Jackson slammed his fork down violently. "What is this? It's tasteless," he exclaimed, tossing the food I had carefully prepared onto the floor. His outburst left me stunned. I tried to reason with him. "I've been contemplating this for some time, but recently you've been complaining about the taste of the meals," I started. Since becoming pregnant, I had opted for less seasoning to ensure healthier meals, a temporary change until our baby was born. If he found the food bland, he could have simply added some salt. "Why did you have to throw the meal on the floor?" I was about to add, but Jackson interrupted with a sneer. "I don't want a woman with a belly like a monster." "You have to raise the kid by yourself," he declared, eyeing my swollen belly with disdain. His cruel words confirmed my worst fears. I had always dreaded this day, even as I hoped for a different outcome. With resolve, I went to my room, retrieved a document, and returned. "Fine, here are the divorce papers," I said, presenting the documents to him. Jackson's face twisted in shock. "What the hell? What's this all of a sudden?" he stammered. "Well, it was your idea. Now sign it quickly." "I'll submit it tomorrow," I responded firmly, ready to reclaim my life and ensure a better future for my child. When I told Jackson about the divorce, his reaction was fiery. "Just watch. I will make you regret every moment you looked down on me and controlled me. Do you think you can survive without me? You have a baby to care for and you'll regret it," he threatened, his face red with anger. But my decision was firm, and I calmly reassured him, "I'll be fine, don't worry about me." Perhaps my composure and confidence annoyed him further. He grabbed the divorce papers, quickly filled them out, and handed them back. "Here you go. If this is what you wanted, it's yours," he said, thinking I wouldn't go through with it. "Thank you," I responded. The very next day, I submitted the divorce papers and left our home. It didn't seem to bother him much. I suspected he was too caught up with his mistress. Shortly thereafter, I moved back to the UK to live with my parents, as my father had returned from France and encouraged me to stay with them. It was the right decision. I needed the support and was grateful to escape the unhappy life I had with Jackson. He called me a few times after I left, but I ignored his attempts, and eventually he stopped trying. Months passed and I welcomed a healthy baby into the world, now living contentedly with my parents. Then, unexpectedly, Jackson began calling again. At first, I ignored his calls, but his persistence wore me down. Finally, I answered, wary and uninterested in what he had to say. "Hello? What do you want now?" I asked. Jackson sounded both surprised and angry. "Hey, what's going on? Why were you on that show? And since when were you the daughter of a CEO with millions of dollars?" I never knew that. He had seen a TV show featuring my family's affluent lifestyle, which had been broadcast after I moved back with my parents. The producers, intrigued by my father's status as the CEO of a global tech company, had showcased our life, hinting at a family wealth of around $35 million. "Oh, by the way," I told him, catching him off guard, "I didn't tell you that I have an asset of $55 million due to an advanced inheritance. That's why I was able to divorce you." Yes, my father informed me about the inheritance, which gave me the confidence to live comfortably even after divorcing you. Jackson's response was swift and furious. "What? That's dirty. Why didn't you tell me about this before? Half of it is mine, right? Give me the money now," he demanded. But it was clear that Jackson's interest had always been more in what I could bring him than in our relationship itself. Now free from his manipulative grasp, I could finally focus on building a peaceful life with my baby and my family, no longer overshadowed by his selfish demands. In a calm tone, I addressed Jackson's sudden interest in money after he saw the TV show featuring my family's wealth. Just as I suspected, after seeing the show, all you could think about was getting money from me. But Jackson, gifts from parents aren't included in property division. Are you forgetting your own actions? I could hear the confusion in his voice as he asked, "What are you talking about?" I sighed, tired of his denial. "I'm exhausted by your anger, Jackson. You called me, and you should know you can't blame me for your own choices. You cheated, didn't you? With your new wife, a junior from your company. You started seeing her even before our marriage was over." Jackson was clearly taken aback by the information I had received from my father. I had always had a resourceful network through my father, and it had finally given me the upper hand. "Did you think I wouldn't find out? My father has many contacts, and one of them told me about your affair. I've kept quiet until now, but I will be seeking child support." Jackson was still in denial, protesting. "Stop kidding. Why should I pay child support? It's all because of you, right? You got pregnant on your own and slacked off with household chores. It's all your fault." Hearing Jackson blame me without any remorse for his own actions was unbelievable. I was dumbfounded that I had ever been connected to someone so devoid of reason. "Just listen to yourself, Jackson. You're broke because your new wife spent all your earnings and now you're in debt," he pleaded desperately. His excuses shifted from anger to desperation, but I was unmoved. "What are you even talking about? Do you realize how ridiculous you sound? I never want to deal with you ever again. I'll have my lawyer handle the child support. Don't call me again and you will not see the child anymore," I declared, my voice firm. "Wait," he tried to interject, but I had already hung up. After ending the call, I blocked his number. Taking a deep breath, I felt a sense of closure. It was over. Jackson would no longer disrupt my peaceful life. Just then, my baby's cries echoed from the other room. I quickly went to soothe them, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment in my new life as a parent. Later, I learned through a former colleague that Jackson had indeed married someone who was quite a spendthrift, which had plunged him into further debt. His financial woes were compounded by his poor decision to start job hunting only after quitting his current job, which left him in dire straits. Hearing about his hardships didn't stir any sympathy in me. The harsh treatment and cold demeanor he had shown me would never fade from my memory. I hoped he would learn from his mistakes, but my focus was elsewhere. Now, surrounded by the love and support of my parents, I was fully enjoying my role as a parent. My baby was thriving, and with the stability provided by my father's success as a CEO, I no longer had any financial worries. We were all thriving in an environment filled with love and security, far removed from the chaos of my past with Jackson. When my father mentioned his intention to pass the company on to me, it was both an unexpected and inspiring moment. This new responsibility meant preparing to take over a business that he had devoted his life to building, a daunting yet exhilarating prospect. Eager to make him proud, I started to immerse myself in learning about the business, taking on small tasks to get a grasp of the operations. The challenges were substantial, but my determination to succeed kept me driven. Living with my parents again allowed me to rebuild my life in a nurturing environment, fostering a newfound confidence and readiness to face future challenges. My father's belief in my abilities infused me with strength and motivation. Each day, I juggled my duties as a mother with my business training, finding joy in the balance. My child's laughter and the steadfast support of my parents bolstered my spirits, making each day rewarding. Reflecting on my past with Jackson, I recognized the profound impact of his betrayal. It hurt deeply, but it also instilled in me lessons of resilience and self-worth. That painful chapter, while harsh, catalyzed my personal growth, helping me emerge as a stronger individual. Now, my focus is clear: to build a bright and stable future for myself and my child. The wounds of the past are healing, gradually replaced by the hope and excitement for what lies ahead. I am wholeheartedly committed to creating a fulfilling life for my child, with the unwavering support of my family. I know I am capable of achieving anything I set my mind to. Looking back, I see that leaving Jackson was the best decision I ever made. It allowed me to rediscover myself and unlock my true potential. No longer am I the scared, uncertain person I once was. I have transformed into a strong, capable woman, ready to take on the world. As I move forward, I am eager to embrace the opportunities that come my way. making the most of each day with optimism and determination. The future is full of possibilities, and I am ready to face any challenges that come my way with confidence. In the end, I hope Jackson comes to understand the consequences of his actions. But as for me, I will continue to advance, cherishing every moment and opportunity. I am prepared for whatever the future holds, confident in my ability to rise above any challenge.